Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. I'm Nick and this is MSFS Flight Plans. Today we are in Tokyo at the big in-sim heliport in Tokyo. And no, we are not going to be taking a tour of the city, at least not yet. I'm sure we'll get around to it eventually. But I'm going to take you guys along for the ride as I try to learn how to fly the helicopters without the assists on. You guys know if you've been watching our channel for a while that I have committed to myself that I'm going to learn how to do it. We've been taking helicopter flights ever since, ever since I got my helicopter controls back around Christmas time, so 8 months or so now. All of those so far have been with the assist on, and the reason why I did that is I just didn't want you guys to have to watch me struggling and floundering and crashing and all that, because around here we're just trying to look for cool places to see and learn all about them. But I feel like if I'm going to be a true simmer, and I know not everybody agrees with me, sometimes you just don't want to fly the helicopters at all. A lot of people are just like, it's too hard, I'm not going to do it. Some people want to fly with the assists on, that's totally cool. But for me personally, I like flying in the sim because I can't afford to fly in real helicopters yet in my life, and I want to try to make it as realistic as I possibly can. And I'm almost ashamed to admit that I've been uploading so many videos and flying for so long, though I do freely admit it, with all these assists on. So just a little disclaimer, not that it probably needs to be made, but you can never underestimate the amount of human stupidity out there. I am not a flight instructor. I've never flown in a helicopter in real life. Obviously, I've never been at the controls of a helicopter in real life. I am not qualified in the least to tell you anything I'm about to tell you. But what I'm going to do is just show you some of the things that I've been working on, and the reason why I wanted to make this video at all, which is not going to be polished, it's not going to look professional as far as how I'm flying these things, is because I thought it would be kind of cool and maybe a bit inspiring to see someone who is almost a complete failure at trying to learn how to fly these. All the videos that I have found on YouTube are guys that are already very, very good at doing it, either in the sim or in real life, and it just blows me away how good they are. I'm hoping I can get to that point. But as I was watching them, I was thinking, boy, I'd love to see that guy's first, or that girl's first helicopter flight. Like, I want to know that she or he is as awful as I am right now, just to inspire me that you can get better. And I can tell you that after working on the stuff I'm going to show you for just maybe 3 or 4 hours at this point, I'm getting a lot better. But I made a lot of mistakes. Initially, I almost gave up on ever flying without the assist on, because like, I just can't do it. And what I was doing is probably something a lot of you guys are doing. If you've ever done that before, you know it's very, very difficult. Getting up off the ground, not too hard. It might be a little bit sloppy, but you can get up in the air. Once you start flying around, it's not real hard, not much harder than flying with the assists on, but trying to hover and trying to land is almost impossible. I mean, it's really the most challenging thing I've ever done in the sim, and it's probably up there for challenging things I've ever done in my life. It is very, very difficult. But I have really enjoyed this process of just making progress. It's just unbelievable and so much fun. So what I'm going to show you guys are a couple of different exercises that I came up with, a couple of them that some of the members on our channel that are much better at this than me have come up with and showed me to do. And I've watched some helicopter flight tutorials from real CFIs for helicopters that have shown these exercises. So we're going to go through some of them. I'm just going to show you what I'm doing, and I'm going to encourage you guys to do these and not just get in and try to come up and land, come up and land, come up and land. And I would even say, don't get in here and hop around and just start flying around. Try to master this first, because everything about the flight experience, from what I've experienced so far, becomes a lot easier and a lot more fun once you start getting better at this. So before we come up off the ground, just a couple of little housekeeping things I want to point out. If you have not seen our only other flight tutorial video on this channel, it is another helicopter flight tutorial, and I uploaded that when I first started flying these things for the same reason. I wanted to show you what it was like as a brand new helicopter flyer, what I was experiencing, what I thought was easier for me in trying to get control of these things, but it was with the assist on. So if you have not yet configured the sim for helicopter flight, go and check out the section of that video that shows you how to do it. I'll put a link for that in the video description so you can get to it pretty quick. Don't leave it with your airplane settings. There are specific helicopter settings in the sim that you want to have configured for helicopter flight. Aside from that, coming to the hardware, people always ask me what I'm flying with. I do have an actual helicopter collective now and a flight stick, or a cyclic you call it in a helicopter, that I got from Virpil for myself for Christmas. That was truly a game changer. Made a big, big, big difference. I've seen guys that can do it with even an Xbox controller without the assist on. I don't know how they do it. But doing it with a keyboard, probably, I mean, you're really handicapping yourself if you don't at least have a flight stick. And I even got an extension for mine too. And the reason why is because you want to get the biggest range of motion that you possibly can, while at the same time being able to put in the tiniest inputs and have them register as tiny inputs in the sim. Because this whole thing is going to be about tiny, tiny inputs. The biggest mistake I was making, and I'm sure everyone else is doing it, is overcorrecting, which is why it's so easy to lose control of these things. So as I'm doing this, I'm going to keep re-emphasizing lightest inputs and lightest grip on the collective, lightest grip, just your fingertips on the cyclic. Because what you're going to find is you'll be flying around for probably 30 seconds and realize your palms are sweating, your feet are sweating, your thighs are cramped up, your shoulders are cramped up, you're leaning towards the screen, leaning away from the screen, and that's when you know you've become too physically engaged. So the goal of this is not just to become a master of thinking about what you're doing, but becoming a master without thinking about what you're doing. So the big thing with this is just repetitions. One of the guys that I was talking to about how he got so good is Captain HeliSim, who has a YouTube channel that you should check out. He's very, very good sim helicopter pilot. But he said when I first talked to him, I spoke to him for about an hour on a live chat, and he said, man, I've just got hundreds and hundreds of hours. He never flew with the assist on. Another one of our members, Gulf 76, great helicopter pilots, never flown with the assist on. And if I could do it all over again, I never would have done it either, because the problem is I've developed the muscle memory now to fly with the assist on, and breaking that is very hard because I probably have hundreds of hours of flying these with the assist on. But I'm trying to break it, and you guys are going to be along for the ride. So I'm going to show you 4 or 5 exercises that we're doing here, and I'll put up a sequence of videos. We're going to do different exercises at different places. It may seem a little bit tedious as we're doing it. And my experience was I'd get in here, get frustrated, totally out of control when you first start. You're going to see I'm still not totally under control, not even close to it, but I want you guys to see what that's like. But then I'd walk away from it going, that's awful. I actually feel sick. I'm worn out. I'm tired. My brain hurts. And then an hour later, I'm like, I'm going to go try it again. So it becomes a really, really fun thing. If you're the type of person that likes big challenges and likes seeing how you progress along those challenges, I think you're going to like this a lot. Okay, so as far as the helicopter you select, just a pointer in that regard, I would pick something very simple, something underpowered, because if you have a really powerful high-performance helicopter, the inputs you're putting in will be amplified by the power of the thing. So this is the R22, maybe the Bell 47, which might be a little bit underpowered. The G2, if you want to use a default helicopter, would probably be great for it. But something that also has a big field of view, because you're going to want to be able to see really, really well, especially down by your feet and all that. You want to get a good field of view, and that'll be helpful too. So pick something simple, and pick something you're going to stick with through the duration of learning how to fly these things, because once you turn those assists off, you're going to see there are huge variances in how these fly and how they feel. After I spent about an hour working in this thing, I tried to go over the G2, and it was like I just hopped in a helicopter for the first time again. So find something you want to work on, stick with it until you feel like you've gained some mastery, and then you can switch to the others. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is just work on the hover, which might be one of the hardest things to do. And we're going to do some easier things from here, but starting with the hover will just help you start to get a sense of what it's like just to maintain control at slow movement speeds, which is essential for everything else, landings in particular. And don't even think about trying to land this thing. I'm sure at the end of your flight, go ahead. Of course, you're going to try to land it, but don't worry about landings. You're just going to get frustrated. When I was doing this for the first time, I'd get up, come back down, try to land. Get up, come back down, try to land. I never mastered the fine motor skills required to just fly the thing, and I was never getting any better at my landings, and I just thought I'm never going to get better. But you're going to find from doing these over and over and over again, everything is going to get easier, and all of that is going to carry over to your landings, which is the ultimate objective of this. Get better at the landings. Again, just getting up and flying is not too hard. Okay, so the first thing I noticed when I switched the assist off is when you start to come up, you're going to bring that collective up very, very slowly. Unlike with the assist on, it's going to immediately start to yaw or spin from side to side, and every helicopter is different, so you're going to want to kind of anticipate that a little bit. It may slide forward, backwards, may tilt from side to side, may roll a little bit, and you just need to kind of get a sense of what the helicopter you have selected is going to do and be ready to counteract that as soon as it comes up. So just bring it up very slowly until you start to get a sense of what that's like. And when you first come up, it's going to take a second to get into the hover state, so you'll kind of flop around a little bit, as you're going to see. And I would say try to get up above the ground effect area, which is where it kind of starts to, for lack of a better and more precise way of describing it, ride on a little cushion of air underneath it. But if you try to do these exercises in the ground effect zone, which is probably under 20 feet or so for most helicopters, you'll kind of get like a trampoline effect, and it'll cause you to overwork that collective. You'll just be going up and down, up and down. So try to get up above that, 20 feet or so. Should probably be good. All right, I'm slowly bringing up that collective. And once it starts to show me which way it wants to go, I'm going to try to correct that to stay in one spot. And we'll just bring it up a little bit. And you're going to find with this, you're going to be using all of the controls all of the time, and just with the slightest inputs. I'm just holding onto the cyclic with my fingertips right now. So when you first do it, I'm intentionally trying to flop around a little bit here, because this is probably what it's going to look like and feel like for you. You're going to overcorrect. You're going to get this pendulum effect where you overcorrect to one side, come back to the other side. You're going to be swinging all over the place. When that happens, relax your grip. Look off in the distance in front of the helicopter. That was another mistake I was making. I'd always be looking at the ground right in front of us. Look off about, 70 to 100 feet in front of you. And do not look at that center bar if your helicopter has one. It creates a little bit of a parallax effect that's going to throw you off, so just look straight ahead through the window off the distance. I'm looking at that 13 right now, if that's what that is, on the other side of that 10. Get it under control. Try to maintain that altitude. And once you recover from all that flopping around, just the tiniest inputs. tiniest inputs. Try to keep it pointed straight ahead. Try to maintain your altitude. Just do this for a while if you want to slide up to the next one, just so you can lose control. And losing control, by the way, which you will do just fine on your own, is a great thing when you're learning. Because every time you lose control, it's another opportunity to regain control. And when you're landing, it is basically just a controlled crash in these things. So being able to recover control quickly is essential for when you get to the landing part of it. So moved up to the next one, just trying to stabilize again here. Maintain altitude, maintain control, looking off in the distance, relaxing my grip. I'm already clutching that collective way too hard. And another thing that I would recommend that's kind of a brain hack is put some music on in the background, maybe a podcast that you're actually interested in listening to, which I know is not easy to find these days. Or if you got a really generous friend, have them come in here and work on these with you and carry on a conversation with them. Because you want to keep your brain from overthinking everything you're doing. You want to get to the point where you're just reacting. And if you do that enough, you'll be stuck in the middle of a conversation. Next thing you know, it's like, wow, I've been hovering for 2 or 3 minutes. I'm not even thinking about it. That's where you want to get. Overthinking leads to overcorrecting, which causes loss of control. All right, so just hover for a while. Keep hovering until you feel like you have mastered that. And it may take several sessions, but as you start to see progress, you'll be like, wow, I can't believe how bad I was, and now I'm actually able to maintain some degree of control. It's an incredible feeling, and it will inspire you to keep doing more of these. So once you feel like you've gotten better with the hovering, the next step up, which is hovering plus a little bit extra challenge, is pivoting, which is just yawing, to use the correct terminology. So we're going to do a 90-degree turn to the right, and most of this is going to be controlled by your anti-torque pedals. And the challenge is as soon as you start to turn, the helicopter is going to start to move off that center line. So just do the best you can to stay above whatever circle you have designated for yourself. Try to maintain that altitude, look off in the distance, relax that grip, relax your shoulders, relax your legs, relax everything. Regain control if you've lost control. Get back in that hover, and then come back the other direction. Slowly, 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 slowly. Smooth, easy inputs on those controls. And I can already see, based on those other circles, I've gotten off my circle I started on, so I'm going to come over here. And every now and then I like to intentionally lose control a little bit just to have a chance to regain control again. The more times you lose control, the better you're getting. As long as you're slowly able to progress at regaining control. So the guys that are good at this, I mean, they can just hover like their game is paused or something. It's unbelievable how good they are. And I can only aspire to get there, but I'm confident with enough practice I will. So then you pivot the other direction, do a 180, do a 360, hop around, do a few different circles if you want to. Don't be afraid to lose control. All right, this next one is easier, much easier. We're just going to do some single direction circuits. And one thing about helicopters is once a little bit of airflow is coming around that airframe, it tends to stay in a straight line a little bit easier. So the big thing with this is try to maintain your altitude, which again won't be hard to do. Not nearly as difficult as when you're trying to hover. Look off in the distance. Relax your grip. You know those numbers are down there. You don't need to be eyeballing those things. And just take it nice and slow and easy. Captain Helisim, who I mentioned earlier, put up a great video this week. I was trying to kind of conceptualize what the feeling is like in my brain in trying to control this thing while it's in a hover. And he started his last video with just a shot of him holding a baseball bat vertically with his palm open, which I'm sure all of you guys have done with a bat or a broomstick or a golf club or something. And even though I'm sure you can't remember it, the first time you ever tried that, it was probably a little bit challenging. You probably had to work at it a little bit, but it probably didn't take very long for your brain to just start reacting to the way that the bat or golf club or whatever was moving. And I bet most of you, if you did that today, could do it without even thinking about it. And I feel like that's exactly what's going on with this helicopter. Initially, it starts to lose control, and if it was a baseball bat, I'd be swinging my arm left and right. I wouldn't be able to keep my palm underneath it, but that's kind of what's going on under that rotor disc. This thing just wants to wobble from side to side, and what you're having to do is make the same adjustments you'd be making with your hand. The only difference is you're using both hands and both feet to do it in the helicopter. But I thought that was just brilliant, so kudos for thinking of a creative way to talk about what's going on with trying to control this thing. So again, fight the temptation to swing around this thing, because you probably could. It's so much easier to control when you're doing this. But this is going to help as you're making your approaches to landing, just to try to stay on some kind of a center line. Maintain the altitude, that's a big deal. Just come around, take as many laps as you want. Relax, relax, keep looking off in the distance. I'm looking at that building in front of me right now. So take a few laps, turn around and go the other direction if you want. And the next thing that we're going to do are some figure eights. So I'm going to come down to that square with the circles in the middle of them, try to do a pivot and turn around as we blend some of our exercises here. So I'm going to try to get into a stable hover once I get down there. And then we're just going to do a stationary pivot, come back the other direction and start doing some figure eights. And I think the value with these, for me, is that you're going to find that when you're turning or yawing in one direction or the other for most of the helicopters, for all of them that I've been in, it requires different levels of pressure on those pedals, depending on which direction you're turning. And why it's a very good idea to get a good feel of that is, as again, you're coming in for that landing, you're going to be, that nose is going to be pointing left, then pointing right. You're going to have to be going both directions, so you want to have a really good sense of how much pressure is going to be required in your helicopter of choice to keep that under control. This will be a great way of giving you a feel for that. And you can start with really big figure eights if you want. I'm going to come around that 16 and then cross back around this side of that 14. That's what my plan is anyway. And then you can just get these figure eights tighter and tighter as you feel like you're getting a little bit better with it. So now we're blending our circuit with our pivoting, maintaining altitude, relax that grip. If you start to lose control like I did there, just pause, regain control, relax your body. Keep looking off in the distance, not down at the ground right in front of you. And just do your figure eight. So I'm going to come around this side of the 14, split the 12 and the 11 there, and then we're going to turn around and do our next exercise. So the next exercises we'll do outside of this video, and these are just so much fun. You guys are going to get addicted to these. It's just so cool. We're going to go out to LA, take off on that, US Bank Tower, the one that has a helipad out there. Come off, come down the side of the building a little bit, about 50 feet or so, and then try circling that thing while pointing at it. We're going to do a light version of that here in just a second. But there is something about seeing that gigantic building in front of you and trying to do that is extremely intimidating and challenging. But it is a heck of a lot of fun. Alright, so I just want to come back down a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is lateral movements left to right. Let me just get stationary here, and the thing I'm going to focus on is the farthest line I can see, which appears to be down on the other side of that 28 there. So that's what I'm going to keep focusing on, just to force myself to look off in the distance. Let's get stable. And first we're going to go to the left. The big thing here, try to maintain that altitude, try to maintain control. And the hard part is stopping and coming back in the other direction. So now we got to do the lean, which will get you into a pendulum in no time flat. So just correct that when you start to swing that way. And just slowly come back in the other direction. Maintain your altitude, which I'm not doing a great job of. So when I feel like I'm losing control, I'm just going to stop, recover, get to a hover, and then continue. And this is not easy. Really not easy. But every single motion, every time you do it, every second of exercise you put in is going to make you better. Come to this side, come to that stop. Try to prevent this pendulum from happening. Keep that nose pointed straight ahead. Look in the distance. Relax the grip. I'm telling you guys that because I'm telling myself that. I've got the death grip on my controls right now. Alright, get control, get control. So this is with no wind on, guys. You can imagine if you had to fight the wind at the same time you're doing this. Just sweep back and forth. Back and forth. Okay, the last one we're going to do on this video is what I'll just call, for lack of a better term, circling the circle. I'm going to give big props to our man Gulf76, a member of our community that showed me this. As I mentioned before, he is an impressive sim helicopter pilot. Pick one of the bigger circles out here. We'll pick, let's see, that 34 looks fine, I guess. We're going to try to keep the nose pointed at the center of it and circle around it with the nose pointed at the center of it. So I want to get down to where I'm stable in a hover before I start. And again, if you can, you're going to be tempted to look right at that 34. Try to look off in the distance. It helps. And then just slowly work your way around this thing. This is probably the most challenging of all of these. But this is going to be something we need to develop before we go out to the US Bank Tower in LA, or else we're not going to be able to do that at all. Not at all. And I speak from experience because I still can't do it very well. Not good enough to upload a video. I kept crashing into the thing. And every now and then you'll find, if you're really distracted mentally, you just be zipping around this thing. You're like, wow, how did I do that? And it's just such a great feeling. And it's not like you can just get the controls fixed and just maintain whatever you're doing. You can't. You always got to be working them, adjusting, correcting all the time. Relax the grip, Nick. Relax the grip, relax my shoulders, look in the distance. And just circle the thing and then go back in the other direction if you want to. So I'd say maybe give 10 minutes for each of these exercises, and I would not progress on to the next one until you feel like you've gotten even just a little bit better at any of them. You want to make sure you're always making some progress just for the mental satisfaction of doing it, just to keep you motivated. So we'll take a little lap around here, do a little recap, and then we'll come in and try landing so you can see that despite all that, how bad I still am, so that you are not disheartened when you try to do it and you have a bad landing. Well, this is the first time I've flown it here. I was under the impression that Tokyo was a photogrammetry city, but apparently this part is not, because that doesn't look very good at all, does it? But that's alright, we're not out here to critique the scenery. So I'm just going to circle around to the other side. So, again, first thing you want to do, get your sim controls set up properly within the sim. If you can afford even a basic flight stick upgrade from the yoke. I wouldn't have been able to do this. I would have given up if I was just trying to fly with the yoke. It's too hard for me, but again, I've seen people that can do it. If you're willing to put in the time and effort to develop the muscle memory, but I just want as lifelike experience as I can possibly manage. So getting some kind of flight stick definitely helps. Turn off the wind, and before you do anything, you might even want to write it on a note card with a big magic marker. Relax, relax, relax. Easy inputs on the controls, just a feather grip on those things, and look off in the distance. Always look off in the distance. And if you can, get something playing in the background to help distract you. Overthinking is going to be your worst enemy. Alright, so let's see. We'll try to come... Wow, I came up a lot there. I didn't realize I'd gained that much altitude. Let's try that last one on the right over there for our landing spot. And another thing Captain Helisim had said would be good advice for someone trying to work on their landings for the first time. I was always coming in about 200 feet directly over the helipad and trying to plop down. It's probably a lot better, I'm discovering, to come in really slow and creep up to the thing just a few feet over it, because it's just too hard to maintain that hover and try to come straight down. Really, really difficult. Maybe at some point I can get there, but I'm not there yet. So I'm going to get down real close to the ground here. We don't have any obstructions, which is great. And then I'm going to try to get myself stationary over it. And all this looks fine and dandy until you get right over that and try to put it down, as you're about to see. Getting in that hover and trying to come down, straight down, even for a few feet, not easy to do. Alright, so again, just work on flying in a straight line. Everything you do, you can deploy your exercise you've been working on. Maintain control. Light touch. Relax that grip. Relax the shoulders. Lean back to your normal seating position. And when I was doing this, I'd be at like 45 degrees, lean to the left, to the right. My wife walked in, she's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, I can't help it. It just, you'll get past it. It's just going to take the reps. It's just going to take the reps. Alright, so let's see how close we can get. The less space I have to go before touching down, the less opportunity for me to make mistakes, and I'm still going to do it, I'm telling you. Unless I can just pull one out of my rear end here and get a good landing, which is probably not going to happen. Alright. Oh. Alright, so, I'm losing control. Just going to regain control, get back to a hover. And then just try to gently set her down. And there's almost like two ground effect areas, because right now we would definitely be within the ground effect area. I'm not touching my collective right now, but you can see you get to about a foot off the ground, and it almost hits like a second cushion of air. And one of the certified flight instructors was saying when you get to that point, you'll have a tendency, as I'm doing right now, to just start messing with the controls. Something in your brain just tells you to do that. But he said resist the urge to do that. When you get to when you're like a foot off the ground, just drop that collective. You're not going to destroy the helicopter. So I'm going to try to do that here and just plop her on down. There we go. That wasn't too bad. Probably one of the best landings I've had. Don't be discouraged. Most of them are awful compared to that one. Okay, guys, so that's it. Again, if you guys feel like you want to make fun of me, tell me things I'm doing wrong, I want to hear it. I mean, I want to know how to do this better. I don't have any experience with this whatsoever. I just want to bring you guys along for the ride, so you will not be discouraged when you see what it takes to get to where you can fly these things proficiently. So many guys are so much better than me. I appreciate all the input that they've given to me. Our next video will be out in LA. We'll try cruising around that bank tower building, and then we've got another one that our man Gulf 76 showed me out at Victoria Falls. If you have the add-on pack for that, there's a gondola, a big gondola, that'll go up and down at a diagonal. And we're going to try to follow along with that thing. So lots of different stuff. If you got some other exercises and they're cool and they're different and they're helpful, we'll upload videos of those too. It's going to be a fun journey, and we can all celebrate together when we can finally fly these things before 2024 comes out. And that's the big catalyst for me. They've got all kinds of missions and stuff in there, like mountain rescues, firefightings, car crashes, things like that. I want to be able to fly these things by the time that comes around without those assists on. So thanks for joining me, guys. Hope this was helpful for you, and I cannot wait to see y'all again in the skies. Later.